They were born on the big screen.
Looney Tunes were smart and sassy.
They took over television.
I thought I saw a pussycat.
For nearly a century, cartoon animals have helped us laugh at and understand the experience of being human.
A lot of these characters have qualities that we admire because we see them in ourselves.
Get ready to meet the men and women who gave life and voice
He's colossal and stupendous.
to the classic cartoon characters we've grown up with.
Hey, what's up, Doc? Sneepy, I told you, never do that again.
Oh, Bullwinkle, what are you doing now?
And find out why we humans can't get enough of seeing our friends in the animal kingdom act just like us.
Get a load of this, folks.
On Animal Icons, Animated Animals.
Which way do they go, George? Which way do they go?
From the latest hit movies to the pages of the comics, most of us take cartoon animals for granted.
Just a minute, Chubby.
The fact that a mouse or a duck or a rabbit can talk and wear clothes like the rest of us seems perfectly normal.
Does anybody out there know why so many animated characters wear gloves? I don't know what that's about. Like Bugs Bunny, no other clothes. Just walked out of the house every day going, let's see, what am I forgetting? Oh yeah, my gloves.
What a fairy tale.
And there's different size mice, right? Like there's Mickey Mouse, who seems to be as big as a dog or as big as a duck. You know, like he's in scale with Donald. But you're going, wow, if I saw a mouse as big as a duck, well, I'd freak.
Help! Save me, help!
There's one simple explanation for why we accept a giant mouse or a glove-wearing rabbit. Cartoon animals are actually stand-ins for you and me.
This is your lucky day.
They talk like us, they walk like us, sometimes they even look like us. I mean, the characters are drawn and animated to personify humans.
Look at the size of that wishbone.
They're really extensions of us.
Animals, I think, have the same instincts that we do. They don't have the same vocal cords, but they certainly convey what they think and what they feel. Making an animal anthropomorphic so that he can speak. He has the same emotions that people have of hunger,
Oh, boy. Feline fricassee.
being happy,
Woohoo!
dejected.
I'm a bad pussycat.
In cartoons, animals are given these human qualities so that we can more readily identify with them, to be able to see them as part of our world. We have a Bugs Bunny character, for example, that is a very sarcastic,
What's up, Doc?
kind of like your smart aleck uncle.
Go under a west.
On what charge? You got nothing on me.
Through cartoon animals, we're able to poke fun at our own human behavior, our successes and our shortcomings.
We see them in ourselves or in other people. The animator Chuck Jones once said, I want to be Bugs Bunny, but I am Daffy Duck. Bugs is totally in control. He can outsmart everybody. Daffy thinks he's got it all figured out and then blows up in his face, which is probably closer to reality for most of us.
They got me.
Really, all of these animals are people. You know, Foghorn Leghorn is the big blowhard politician that won't shut up.
Talk, talk, talk.
What was funny about Pepe Le Pew? That delusional quality. Here you have the personification of a devil-may-care, debonair, ladies' man playboy. And yet it's personified in the animal that we all run in terror from, a skunk with aroma lines coming up.
You'll have people that identify themselves with the Tasmanian devil because they want to be rough and tough and eat up everything. A lot of women love Tweety because he's soft and he gets the better of that mean old Sylvester.
Oh, the poor pussycat. He crushed his witty head.
Turning animals into people is hardly a new phenomenon. Humans have been doing it ever since ancient times.
The historical origins of cartoon characters or depictions of animals in cartoons can go back to cave drawings. Cave drawings did depict animals, and these animals had, human characteristics.
The Egyptians imbued cats with a number of human traits and saw animals as fellow travelers into the afterlife. And for centuries, talking animals have been handy devices to teach children morality lessons through fairy tales.
Children don't have the same boundaries as adults. So they have imaginary friends that they talk to. They'll talk to their stuffed animals. Cartoons have that same property to them. They can carry on a dialogue with the cartoon. They can listen to the animals, talk to them. They can be educated about any number of issues, whether it's endangered species or the environment, through these characters.
By the dawn of the 20th century, anthropomorphized animals had leaped off the pages of storybooks and onto movie screens. Animator Winsor McCay was the first to turn an animal into a very human companion with the 1914 silent short subject, Gertie the Dinosaur. But it took a crafty cat to truly combine human and animal traits into a character that became a household name.
Felix the Cat was the very first cartoon superstar. His first cartoon was in 1919, so that's 9 years before Mickey Mouse.
Felix had a personality. You can feel him think. You could see him think. The way he moved, his body language, you kind of knew what he was thinking and doing.
But Felix the Cat wasn't just an animal who thought and acted like a human. He was also a device for grown-up animators to satirize the world around them.
I think cartoon animals have changed a great deal. I think they started out as entertainment. I think they quickly became ways of commenting on society.
By 1928, moviegoers were used to seeing human behavior transferred to animals on the big screen. And as silent movies gave way to the new, exciting invention of talking pictures, animated animals became more human than ever, now that they could speak.
That was one of those things that the audience could relate to and brought us closer to that character.
Performers were now needed to add a vocal dimension to animated animals. It's a tradition that's continued ever since.
Personification of animals was fascinating to anybody that likes to make noises and do voices. I loved animals very, very much. I mean, where I would watch them and listen to them, you know, the different types of dog barks. And then there's the little pesty little dogs that are like tinier than anything and act like a big deal. I love cats, and when cats got mad, they'd be like...
When Animal Icons returns, Hollywood tunes up for a golden age of animal animation. Perhaps no one better understood how to make an audience identify with an animated animal than Walt Disney, who created the ultimate cartoon everyman, Mickey Mouse, in 1928.
He really caught the whole Depression era feeling. There was this little scrappy character who, had the world against him, and he fought back, and it was just embraced by everybody.
The very, very first Mickey Mouse cartoons, Mickey was very mischievous. Mickey became so popular, and so popular with kids, that they were very aware of that in the early 30s, that they began to soften the character, and they made him into what we call an every person, kind of like Jimmy Stewart, that the audiences could relate to.
Walt made him a character whom you loved. You felt sorry for him if he had any problems. You loved him. He was affectionate and kind and wonderful.
That's why then they began to introduce Donald Duck, because Donald Duck suddenly became the raucous, mean-tempered character. Mickey had been that before, but now Mickey had been softened to a point that when they brought in Donald Duck, and Goofy became the kind of the dumb, another trait that Mickey didn't have. And they teamed those three characters up in a lot of cartoons so that you had all the different personalities.
I tend to prefer the plucky Depression-era Mickey, where he's in the Klondike prospecting for gold or flying a mail plane, through the Andes or something like that. And when the post-war Mickey got a little suburban, watering his garden, cleaning out his garage, which wasn't as interesting to me. Donald Duck, you could tell that the animators were just having fun, figuring out different ways for him to just be apoplectically angry. And like Jackie Gleason with Ralph Cramden, it was funny because you knew it was coming.
The 1930s saw a population explosion of animated animals, thanks to Walt Disney's Silly Symphonies and Warner Brothers' copycat variations, Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies. If Walt Disney's cartoons were full of good behavior and bravery, Warner Brothers animators like Chuck Jones, Friz Freleng, and Tex Avery had a much more down and dirty attitude about the craziness that's part of being human.
Looney Tunes were smart and sassy in a way that Disney was more respectful of authority.
The Warner Brothers characters are a little more irreverent.
Yeah, you mean none of this? Or like so? Or this? Or...
They are a little more smart aleck.
Oh, the poor putty cat. He crushed his witty head.
Their characters are a little more working class.
In terms of just sheer irreverence and anarchy and chaos and sort of insolence.
Come on now, you into a West.
And defiance to authority. I mean, it was all there.
Right, they were animals with an attitude. And so that's when we got Bugs Bunny.
And what's on the hubbub? Bub.
Man, if it comes down to a 5-card Monte game between Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny's going to take him.
Oh, murder.
There's a lot of adult humor in cartoons, which people forget. These cartoons were not made entirely for children. They were made to run with Humphrey Bogart pictures and Betty Davis pictures, and they were part of the bill.
Give me the bird. If the Hayes office would only let me, I'd give him the Boyd, all right.
The Looney Tunes characters represented people in general. The characters are so distinctive. Thanks to the directors and the writers, they understood human beings. They understood feelings and the warmth and also anger that human beings have.
All right, now, keep your showing on. Take it easy. Stop it! Listen, sport, you don't know the meaning of fair play.
Daffy was like out of control and emotional. Bugs was the favorite, really, because he was the wise guy, the guy that everybody wanted to be. Who said things that needed to be said but couldn't be.
Why, look at you. You call yourself a Mountie. You're a disgrace to the regiment.
All he wanted to do was just, like, enjoy life, and there was always, like, some hunter chasing him.
No, you don't.
Or some other kind of thing bothering him, and I could identify with that.
I like him. He's silly.
We're all kind of like that. Everybody gets encroached upon. You buy a house, and then the people next door move in, and they're the worst people on the planet. You know, and you're going, oh, how do I get stuck with this? And so you begin wishing you were the rabbit that could just, like, you know, take grenades and... Another great thing I liked about Bugs Bunny was that anarchic sensibility of keeping the man off his toes.
Go into a West.
The hunter has you in his sights. What do? You reach up and grab his face and just go... Elmer Fudd or whoever is just completely thrown off by this and incapacitated.
I'm a disgrace to the regiment.
It's almost like pre-hippie Abby Hoffman. Abby Hoffman would kiss the cop and then run away. And Bugs Bunny was doing it long before.
The Warner Brothers cartoons worked on two levels. Kids loved the slapstick comedy and the chance to see animals talk.
Hey, what do you got to eat around this joint?
Grown-ups could relate to the characters' all-too-familiar struggles to succeed that ended in disaster.
I like Wile E. Coyote you know, because that's my kind of character. The guy that keeps trying and fails over and over and over.
Daffy probably would have to edge Bugs out in my heart because he's hilarious and he's not as smart as Bugs. There's a certain arrogance about him that I love. That's self-assured quality that he has and doesn't see the big picture.
He's colossal, stupendous. One might even go so far as to say he's mediocre.
The man responsible for over 1,000 of Warner Brothers' best-known character voices was a former musician turned voiceover legend named Mel Blanc.
Put out those lights! I see an unidentified object flying around my little head. This scene ought to get me the Academy Award.
Mel Blanc, definitely the king of cartoon voice actors. You know, he's the guy. He's Elvis, he's Sinatra, he's the Beatles, you know, to us guys that do this for a living.
All right, let's see what the kid can do.
He did 1,500 voices. It was an amazing experience to realize that my dad was the whole menagerie, was every animal plus the humans like Yosemite Sam.
I'm hunting that rabbit who takes your sugar crisp because they're made of wheat to help give him muscles. That's the varmint.
My dad used to take the inherent traits of the physical animal and work them into his voice. He went to Tasmania to see the Tasmanian devil, which virtually ate everything. So, Porky Pig, he wallowed around in the pigs. About 3 weeks, and finally he went back to the studio and he says, if a pig can talk, it would talk with a grunt.
Believe me, but I've got a very important appointment.
Attitudes in your voices have a lot to do with what the animator will pick up. He'll pick up on your nuances and then add that to the cartoon. And that's why Mel was so great. It was Mel's, yeah, what do you do? And so you can almost see that little nuance being drawn in caricature.
No. Hey, smart boy.
Pepe Le Pew is kind of based on the Charles Boyer performance of a character named Pepe Le Moco. And Foghorn Leghorn is based on a radio show character that's forgotten today, Senator Claghorn.
Let's bury the hatch. I say, let's bury the hatchet, but not in anyone's head, boy. Hatchet, head. But that's a joke, boy. You missed it. Went right past you. You gotta keep on your toes. Toes, that is.
Foghorn had that distinctive southern sheriff that everybody copied in movies after Foghorn Leghorn. They said, well, did Mel copy it from a southern sheriff? He said, no, all the southern sheriffs copied it from Foghorn Leghorn.
Yappity, yappity, yap. I can't get a word in edgeways. Talk, talk, talk. But no wonder you're not sharp. You gotta always listen.
When Animal Icons returns, cartoon animals report for duty to raise the morale of a war-torn world. Mel Blanc and his Looney Tunes cohorts created characters that often seem as real as people we know. But they did take some liberties when it came to capturing the real-life traits of the animals they're based on.
Porky Pig tends to be scared, shy, stuttering.
I better hurry. I just got 10 minutes to catch my plane.
The pigs that I've worked with have been very bold. They will pretty much do anything that they can to get what they want, and they're not afraid. Bugs Bunny is very street smart, very sarcastic. He likes to get in the middle of things.
I'm gonna punch you right square in the nose.
Real rabbits, they wouldn't do that. Rabbits are really shy, kind of scared creatures. They only come out when they know it's safe. Slightest noise, they're gonna run.
Why, that dirty double-cross him.
Carrots are a favorite food. The ones that we have at the zoo, they love their carrots. But I don't see them sitting around with the carrots kind of enjoying them and eating them. They eat them pretty quickly. Daffy Duck and regular ducks, I think, are a good match.
Yes, sir. Daffy Duck, personal representative of the most sensational discovery since the Sweater Girl.
The ducks that I take care of at the zoo, very vocal, very talkative, constantly chattering, letting you know that, hey, I'm here, check me out. And, you know, Daffy Duck is the same way. He's very much in your face.
Surprisingly, one of Looney Tunes' most outrageous cast members, the Tasmanian Devil, does bear a striking resemblance to his real-life inspiration.
A Tasmanian Devil is a marsupial. They are from Tasmania, down by Australia. They do have a huge mouth and a huge set of teeth. Taz, you see him zipping through forests, zipping through towns, eating whatever he can find, just causing havoc. Real Tasmanian devils, they don't spin, but they do have that kind of frantic mentality when it comes to feeding time.
Warner Brothers was far from the only studio to make millions out of blending the best and worst parts of animals and humans. At Universal, animator Walter Lantz used Woody Woodpecker to parody the most irritating aspects of human behavior. At MGM, animators William Hanna and Joseph Barbera used the cat and mouse rivalry of Tom and Jerry to comment on the very human quality of competition.
There is no better illustration of the dispassionate cruelty of nature than a Tom and Jerry cartoon. They are the most hyper-violent, sadistic cartoons in a beautiful way.
The best animators literally drew from life to give their animated animals a human dimension.
A lot of characters, like the wolf in the Tex Avery cartoons, would go gaga for a sexy human girl. Oh, again, that's a human trait to have. It really brought out the male emotions that were going on inside ladies. If you want to know what we think when we see a very nice-looking lady, look at the wolf in the Tex Avery cartoons going crazy, because that's our innermost feelings.
By the time America was embroiled in World War II, animated animal stars were so popular they were enlisted to boost morale.
World War II changed the entire content of cartoons.
A whole mess of Mr. Smith. I'm a Spitfire!
They became much more brash and sort of adult, I think.
Many of the cartoon characters were reflective of a popular movement towards supporting the war effort.
We're in to win. Turn in your chin and listen to win.
Being the home front, giving people hope in the face of a worldwide conflict.
Looney Tunes really took off during the war years. Bugs Bunny became the famous Bugs Bunny all over the world. He was the hero. He was the American fighting soldier. He was the tough guy that used his brains, but he always was the winner.
Behind the scenes, animation produced its own set of stars, like Stan Freberg, Gene Vanderpyle, and Dawes Butler. But perhaps the busiest female vocal artist of animation's golden age was June Foray, who first channeled her animal instincts for Walt Disney's 1950 feature, Cinderella.
Disney hired me to do the cat in Cinderella, Lucifer. He didn't have any dialogue, but I was working for Walt Disney, and that was the first animated film that I ever made. People still remember Lucifer. I can still do that, I guess, if they pay me. I did the gal from Russia with Bugs Bunny. She wanted the marriage with the bugs. I did a mouse in the Honey Mousers. It was a takeoff on the Honeymooners. And so I had to do an Alice, and I think I sounded like Audrey Meadows. I also did the cat in that, who tried to get the mouse. It seems so I've been doing animals all my life. I guess I'm just an anthropomorphic person myself.
To find the right tone for their animal characters, voiceover artists sometimes turn to the animal world and fellow human beings for inspiration.
It's like you never run out of gas if you just, you know, take people you knew or fuse different people. I used my brother, I used his voice as a squirrel one time. And they said, what do you want to do for a squirrel? Well, the obvious thing would be all like, you know, they make that. And I said, that's so cliche. So I started talking like my brother who had a thick Boston accent, and I was saying, you know where I can get some nuts? I mean, I know it's summer, and I don't want to work.
Interesting story. Stan Freberg years ago was asked by Phil Harris to do a kangaroo. So Stan went to the zoo to listen to the sounds a kangaroo made. And the zookeeper said, hey, look, kid, if you're waiting to hear what a kangaroo does, you're going to be here for a long time because kangaroos don't make any noise. Well, Stan didn't want to lose the job, so he went back on the Phil Harris show, and he said, I've got it. I've got the sound for the kangaroo. And what he did was, oh, 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 like the jump, saved the job.
When Animal Icons returns, animated animals migrate to a new arena: television. In the 1950s, cartoon animals who'd become famous at the movies found a new outlet for their antics: television.
Hey there, hi there, ho there. At last, it's Mickey Mouse Club fun again throughout the week.
The Mickey Mouse Club became must-see television for an entire generation of baby boomers. Warner Brothers even put Bugs, Daffy, and Company in their own TV show.
A Bugs Bunny Show. There's action, romance, and laughs.
The Bugs Bunny Show. My parents wouldn't leave the room when that came on, which is great. It shows you the mass appeal that it appeals to adults and children.
Those are some of my fondest childhood memories, is my dad, you know, poking his head into the room. Hey, what are you watching? Oh, you know, Bugs Bunny, Looney Tunes. And he would come in and sit down, and before you know it, your brothers and sisters are there, your mom comes in, and, you know, you're all laughing at this really great art, you know, this really great comedy that these smart writers and artists with a really great insight into the human psyche made.
Howdy, folks. Welcome to Jellystone Park.
Folks like Hanna-Barbera, which were an offshoot of the big studios, started going in for television cartoons. And I would say most people today that are 40 or 45, they know animation from television.
Hanna-Barbera. They had like probably a quarter of the drawings that a Warner Brothers cartoon had. So they based those shows more on the voice performances.
Must be crammed full of...
Hello, Yogi.
It's the Ranger! Tisket a tasket! You can't float down with a basket, sir!
Dawes Butler was one of the greats because, I mean, the guy who did Yogi Bear is the same guy doing Huckleberry Hound. It seemed like two different people. A lot of Dawes' characters were sort of takeoffs on certain people. You know, Yogi Bear was sort of an Art Carney. Huckleberry Hound was sort of a Andy Griffith who was emerging at the same time.
Oh, Mr. Bayer.
Yogi is the name, sir.
I thought you were supposed to wake up cross as a Bayer.
Always do, until I have my Kellogg's Cornflakes.
Like the classic animation that came before it, some TV cartoons sandwich social satire in between the gags.
Uncle Woody, look at all the money I got for some Rice Krispies.
For the people that wrote specifically for television, they brought with them that sort of Mad Magazine ridicule of Madison Avenue and consumerism and just the American lifestyle, which was brilliant.
Buzzard Buck. Guess we don't call you knothead for nothing.
On the Flintstones, the animals were used to be little asides and commentaries, like it would be a mastodon for a vacuum cleaner or a parrot for the thing that told you that the phone was ringing.
Perhaps no TV animation producer was more clever in using cartoon animals to pull off adult satire than Jay Ward. His best-loved series, The Rocky and Bullwinkle Show featured the voices of June Foray and Bill Scott as the flying squirrel and a lovable but dim-witted moose.
And now for Cheerios, here's Bullwinkle's Corner.
Hi there! Today's poem will slay you.
I love all the animals that I do, but I think most people remember Rocky the Flying Squirrel. His dialogue was so brilliant, and it was written in such a sophisticated fashion. He would always pull a rabbit out of his hat, and I would say, yeah, but that's the wrong hat. That trick never works. And it didn't.
If most cartoon animals represented the silly side of human nature, Rocky represented the ultimate good guy we all hoped we could be.
He was a very intelligent, basically good human being type squirrel. A Boy Scout squirrel.
Moose, I believe, have a little more intelligence than Bullwinkle tends to portray.
What you looking for, stranger? I'm missing a box of Cheerios. What's it look like? It's about yai by yai, and it's got a big G on the front.
Rocky, very fast, very adventurous. I see squirrels that way, but they're not going to be hanging around with the moose. They hang out around with the moose, they're going to get stepped on.
Friendship and camaraderie, which was at the heart of Rocky and Bullwinkle, was also the key to another satiric cartoon series of the 1960s, Beanie and Cecil.
A giant sea serpent and a little kid named Beanie, and they just hung around and had adventures. Cecil had loyalty to Beanie, and I think that's a huge trait that animals in our real world have, undying, unconventional loyalty to their friends / owners. And you see that in the cartoons, you know. Cecil was always ready to go to the mat for Beanie Boy. You know, Bullwinkle and Rocky were inseparable. Mickey and Pluto were the best of friends. That's animators bringing their love of animals and fondness for what animals give to you into the world of animated cartoons.
When Animal Icons returns, animated animals return to prime time. By the 1970s, cartoon animals were relegated mostly to Saturday mornings. The Warner Brothers cartoon characters that had originally been aimed at both young and old moviegoers now were toned down even more, becoming pitchmen for children's drinks and cereals.
You usually find Post Toasties in a Post Toasties package. A wonderful way to start your day, kids.
But all that changed when The Simpsons premiered in 1989 and returned animated animals to prime time with an adult attitude never before seen on television. Animators who'd grown up watching the classic Warner Brothers cartoons of the 1940s and 50s took their manic, no-holds-barred humor to a whole new level with edgy animal characters like Santa's Little Helper, Snowball the Cat, and Itchy and Scratchy. Like their big-screen ancestors, Tom and Jerry, Itchy and Scratchy brought cutting-edge humor back to animation. The Simpsons also opened the door for other satirical and sophisticated animation.
I think they've changed the way our times have changed, the way pop culture has changed, and they have to constantly reinvent themselves and find a way to be relevant.
In 1991, the cable network Nickelodeon introduced the outrageous Ren and Stimpy, created by John Crispolucci, to viewers of all ages.
A Ren and Stimpy would be a lot more irreverent to social arrangements. They're not in service of anything. They're almost anarchistic.
When I did Ren and Stimpy, the cat, he's a big brain-dead cat. He's just happy and goofy, and everything in his life was like a child's, you know.
Happy, happy, joy, joy. Hey, Ren, will you button me?
And, you know, and then the Chihuahua was, like, psychotic. And he's like, will you shut up, you fool? Yes, I shall kill you! What I was given was that he was like a Peter Lorre, that quiet, brooding, I'd like a couple of hamburgers and make them raw. You know, that menacing, silent kind of... And then the crazy one, that eye, I saw that eye! That eye was winking and blinking! And then Burl Ives was put in there somewhere, you know, like Big Daddy, like Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, you know. Stop or I'll shoot! I told you I'd shoot, but you didn't believe me! Why didn't you believe me? And Kirk Douglas, because he was so emphatic. Like in Detective Story, you know, he would be like, I hate criminals! The Stimpy voice was based on Larry Fine from the Three Stooges. Because everybody could do Moe, and everybody could do Curly, but no one gave a damn about Larry. And the little he did say I found fascinating, like, you know, be careful, Moe. There's too much tinsel in the tree. And so that voice was the basis of, it still makes me laugh, that silly Philadelphia accent.
On the TV series Futurama from Simpsons creator Matt Groening, Billy West found himself providing the voice for a talking crustacean?
And one of the characters was Dr. Zoidberg, and he wasn't human. He was a crustacean. He had all this cool meat hanging off his face, almost like a squid, but he was sort of a lobster, too. And I thought, well, if you have all this junk hanging off your face, it would impair your speech if you were speaking.
That is so unfair.
I made little noises like a crustacean, what I thought maybe a crustacean would make if you could actually hear them, like, you know, and that underwater kind of...
You got fleeced. I would have settled for a hard roll with ketchup inside.
Not to be outdone, Warner Brothers created big-budget, star-studded movies that combined live action with animation, adding a whole new dimension to the classic Looney Tune characters. Michael Jordan joined Bugs and the Gang in the 1996 feature Space Jam. It proved that the studio was still king of the jungle when it came to irreverent animated animals.
The attitudes of characters like Daffy Duck, who is a complete neurotic, remain completely understandable today. And so the trick is to update them by bringing them into the modern world, but not update them by changing anything specific about the way they behave.
In 2003, Brendan Fraser and Steve Martin joined the Warner Brothers Animated All-Stars for Looney Tunes Back in Action, directed by lifelong animation buff Joe Dante.
The idea of combining humans and live-action characters is much like combining, you know, dinosaurs and actors. I mean, it's something that you can't see in real life. When Disney was just starting out, he did a series of Alice cartoons, he called them, and Alice was a little girl who was photographed in front of a white sheet. In the white spaces, cartoon characters were drawn to interact with her, and they were very successful. They made a series of them. And then later down the pike, they started to experiment in somewhat more detail with stuff like Jerry dancing with Gene Kelly, which was technically quite an achievement at the time. And over the years, the Mary Poppins kind of movies attempted to combine live actors and animation. And now that we have CGI, where we can create almost anything that can be thought of, people are accustomed to seeing stuff that looks completely real.
The 2002 movie Ice Age featured a menagerie of prehistoric creatures. Directed by Chris Wedge, the Oscar-nominated film boasted such lifelike animation that audiences felt they could almost touch the fur on animal characters like Scrat, a squirrely scrounger who became the film's wide-eyed superstar. When Animal Icons returns, discover how animated animals have influenced our relationships with real animals. What have we started by humanizing animals in cartoons? Some people have become vegetarians after seeing characters like Bambi.
Which one of you ladies is expecting?
Animated animals have also been used to teach lessons of loss and acceptance. In 1941, Walt Disney's Dumbo struck an emotional chord in moviegoers with its depiction of motherhood and family.
What a temper.
Cartoon characters can engender in humans a feeling of loving for animals, but they can also have an opposite effect in that the children might believe that wild animals are friendly when in fact they would not be.
People who come to the zoo will often react to the animals in ways that are familiar to them as far as seeing them in cartoons and shows. They expect the animals to be more friendly. They expect the animals to be more personable. Lots of times the animals are not. They're not going to want to be touched. They're not going to want to be handled. You can go up to the fence and pet the goat. Monkeys? No, you can't do that.
Cartoons can disassociate people from the wildness of animals. So children learn both positive and negative effects.
I've watched cartoons with children, and I notice that they go away with like a little more like respect or consideration for their own animals. It's just thrilling to think that they have these pets, and there they are being portrayed with voices and everything.
Hello, breakfast.
And I think that stirs up a kid's imagination. He goes back and looks at the cat like, I wonder what you're capable of.
And now the kid goes into its finale. And what a finale!
Through animated animals, we've poked fun at ourselves, our best qualities,
Yippee! Hooray!
our worst, and above all, our most laughable.
Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, they're real to me. I could hang out with them. I could sit and have lunch with them, and we could have a great conversation.
What's up, Doc?
Being a zookeeper, I hang out with animals enough that I do pick up on their quirks, their personalities, but your average child is not spending 8 hours a day with a pig. So Porky Pig gives him an idea of what a pig might be like. And I think kids can really identify with that. It gives them fuel for their imaginations.
These guys that created these characters didn't do a lot of focus group testing, and they didn't do a lot of market research. They just intuited things and just created funny characters and knew human nature and animal nature and just combined them in a really beautiful, effortless way that still stands.
Okay, fellas, break it up, break it up.
To sum it up, I'd say that cartoon animals are the stars of the today and the future. And as Porky would say, that's all, folks.
Gosh, ain't I a stinker?